From the Bent Pixel Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Phone Booth Fighting, a free weekly podcast covering the world of mixed martial arts and so far beyond with myself, Richard Hunter, and this guy.
That's me, Frank Mir.
That's Frank Mir. He's the two-time UFC heavyweight champion. He is a current Bellator heavyweight contender, and he is a podcast host. He does that every week. You only fight a couple times a year, but podcasting, that's every week.
I guess we go out my definition of quantity. I guess I'm a podcaster who fights.
That's right. That's right. That's probably how you should start being introduced. A couple of things. We got a lot to talk about today. This was a crazy big news week. So this episode is in fact, somebody tweeted at Phone Booth Fight. Somebody tweeted us just in the middle of the week. They said something to the effect of, this is such a big news week, I feel like an emergency episode of Phone Booth Fighting should be recorded, which I like because that tells me that when people are seeing big news stories, they're immediately thinking, I want to know what the guys are thinking. I want a new episode of Phone Booth Fighting, so we're here for you. Before we do that, though, we got to tell you how to support the show real quick so you can keep us on the air making new episodes. Frank, why don't you, first of all, tell everybody about the Amazon banner that is on the front of phoneboothfighting.com and how that helps us out.
Well, it's one of the easiest ways that I've been supporting the show. Click on the phoneboothfighting.com, go on the banner where it says Amazon. By clicking on it, transports you right through. It even logs in your own code, your passwords and all that. It'll have it saved for you. And then any shopping you do, anything that you purchase, a small percentage at no extra cost to you, comes here back to the show to help us.
That'll do it. Also, and we don't mention this enough, but also right next to that Amazon banner is a Blue Diamond MMA banner, and that is the world's greatest cup. That is the world's greatest athletic protector. Take it from me, a guy who values that area of my body. And I think that protective cups for competitive athletes, not just MMA fighters, but anybody that's an athlete, to me, Frank, you know what I say, they're like coffee and boob jobs. You get what you pay for.
Yeah, seatbelts are important, but let's face it. If you lose your nuts, is there any purpose to do anything?
No point in living. None whatsoever. It'll be over. So if you're in the market for a good, well, not just a good one, the best cup that is out there on the market, Blue Diamond, or you know what? I'm saying Blue Diamond. I'm thinking of the almonds. It's Diamond MMA is what it is. They use the color blue as their accent.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying blue.
And that's why I didn't correct you. We were like two potheads sitting at a stop sign waiting for it to turn green. Like, I understood what you were thinking, even though it wasn't right.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm thinking of the almonds. Those almonds
I was on the same
too,
page.
Yeah, they don't kick us back anything. But the Diamond MMA cups, they actually, if you click through the banner on the front of phoneboothfighting.com, they give us a little commission too on those.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's why I mentioned them, and that got me through an entire season, the first season of Wimp to Warrior, and I'm about to start the second season at the end of April. So you can bet I will be wearing the Diamond MMA cup.
I wonder if you could be invest in my junk. You know what I mean? Like, by clicking on that, you can purchase me, purchase a fighter of your choice.
Yeah.
So you say you're invested in his equipment.
You could say you literally had him by the balls.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm investing in his post-fight celebration.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when fighters are talking, and they're making some joke about, oh yeah, my wife's, carries my balls around in her purse, then you could be like, well, actually mine are owned by, you look it up on your phone, Winston Jones in South Carolina. Yeah, he's the guy that actually paid to sponsor. So all of that, and finally I told Richie Cranny that runs Wimp to Warrior I'd be sure to plug this, because if anybody, Wimp to Warrior, the amateur mixed martial arts program that I did last year that I'm going to be doing again this year, anybody that's out there interested in that, if you're in the Vegas area, it's a worldwide program, but if you're in the Las Vegas area, we're going to start training the April 29th, I believe, is the start date for here in Las Vegas. Go to wimp2warrior.com. That's wimp, the number 2warrior.com for details. And this season, it's going to be at Randy Couture's place at Extreme Couture. So we'll be training there for like 5 months, and then all doing another amateur MMA fight at the end of it. If you'd like to be part of the program, but it is worldwide. So even if you're not in the Las Vegas area, just go to wimp2warrior.com and see where the next program is in your area. I say worldwide because, Frank, we are worldwide. I know it and you know it, but occasionally we get kind of an interesting reminder. Another listener of ours tweeted us, was listening to our last episode where I was explaining the whole cuckhole thing that we had going on at the brothel.
Yes.
Yeah. This guy was listening. He's in Ireland. He's one of our Irish listeners. And he had that part of the podcast playing as he pulled through a toll booth in Ireland. And he said the toll booth operator gave him the craziest look when he was giving him the change or whatever.
Anybody willing to write in and stand up for and explain the psychology of a cuck? Okay,
we have not heard from that. No, we have not heard from any listeners, I guess, who are willing to out themselves yet. If you didn't hear our last episode, don't miss that one. Go back and listen to it, and you'll hear the whole situation of what we're talking about. I've got a thing currently at my brothel, a very unique situation that I'm trying to accommodate for a client that involves, basically, he's trying to pay to come in and not have sex with the girl. He wants to be sexed by this random male who's guest starring.
That's just gay with a bunch of extra steps. I think how they would.
It is complicated gay, isn't it?
That's a Ricky Morty meme if I've ever seen one. That's just gay with extra steps.
That is a complicated gay experience. But I may have some news on that next week. I'll keep you posted. But I might have an interesting addendum to that story. So if you want to be up to speed, go listen to our last episode after you listen to this one, of course. Because, Frank. All right, where do we start? I mean, there was big news all over the world in all facets, and we're going to touch on the high points and the low points. But I guess because this certainly is an MMA-focused podcast, we got to start with Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor announces this week he's retiring, and then the next day, the New York Times reports that he's under investigation for a sexual assault in Ireland. Now, if you're in the know, this story was floating around out there for a while. I don't know if you had heard it.
It did. It's been
6 months. No,
at least.
I tell you what, the allegation was in December. So 4 months, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, because it was before my fight. Because of, obviously, Carl, Princey, is heavily tied into the whole European MMA community. And his phone was blowing up with people saying, hey, Conor just, sexually assaulted a girl, you know, and then something came out in the news that kind of confirmed that, well, maybe these people aren't full of shit because, fucking people just talk shit all the time, especially when you're at the top of the game like Conor is. His name's in everybody's mouth, right? And so then it came out that there was an Irish superstar being, but then someone came out and said, no, it's this football player and soccer player. And I was like, oh, okay, it just wasn't Conor. Just, when people think of Irish sports superstars, Conor's the first guy to come to name. And so, but now it's like, oh shit, maybe there was some truth to it.
Yeah, apparently Ireland has very strict libel laws as far as what they can and can't report when somebody is accused of something but not convicted of it.
You know what? I'm for that because it destroys a dude's name. I feel like if you're accused of something, I'm for keeping the person's name out of the newspaper. Now, hey, once you're convicted by a jury and they say that, you did it, not that it couldn't be that an innocent guy, but let's just say that let's trust our judicial system that, that most likely you did it. At that point, yes, your name can be slandered all over, and now you're an embarrassment to your family.
Well, at that point, it's not slander.
Yeah, it's not slander. It's truth. Yeah, you're right. So at that point, throw it out there because then I don't feel bad if we can't take it back.
Right.
But I feel so bad for guys that are accused of some type of sexual assault, and then it comes out that the girl made it up, and they're showing video of her at the bar hanging on the guy going out with him, and then she apologizes later that she doesn't know why she did or whatever. Because it does one of two things. One, that guy's name is fucked. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit how many redactions they make. the water cooler on Monday morning is like, hey, you know, there's Bob again, you know, fucking, you know, even for the months that he was, you know, accused, you're screwed. You're living in hell. You're already guilty before you even have a trial. And then on the second, I think that it really obstructs for women's rights. Like, look, I have a daughter, I have a wife. I care about women's rights. For a girl to make a false accusation, I think that they don't happen that often. I think there's only a few bad apples that ever take advantage and abuse that system, but it hurts all the girls that are being honest, and now they feel embarrassed, maybe even more so, to come out. Because, I mean, look, that's an embarrassing situation to deal with. The trauma afterwards of a sexual assault, a woman's not quick to go, yeah, I got raped. You know what I mean? Like, that shit's hard to fucking deal with. So they're already got so many hurdles they got to go over, and now they have this fucking dumb cunt who's fucking making shit up to get even with guys, and somehow, like, she doesn't want to be branded. It's like, no, man, that's fucked up.
Yeah, there's a real ripple effect to it.
Yeah, it screws everybody. There's really no, everybody's a victim when someone makes a false accusation.
Well, let's go in order. We'll talk about the allegations against Conor McGregor here in a second, but we'll just go in chronological order because a couple of days ago, this was the retirement tweet from Conor McGregor. We've got it pulled up here on the screen if you're watching us on our Phone Booth Fighting YouTube channel. From @TheNotoriousMMA. Hey guys, quick announcement. I like how he downplays it. Hey, by the way, real quick, I've decided to retire from the sport formerly known as mixed martial art today. I don't know if that's a typo or if he's trying to make a point with leaving off the S. I'm not sure.
Why is it formally known?
I don't know.
What dig was that?
You know what? I don't know either. I wish all my old colleagues well going forward in competition. I now join my former partners on this venture already in retirement. Proper pina coladas on me, fellas. That's a reference to his whiskey brand. Well, he's 0 for 2 in confusing me with retirement tweets because I didn't understand the first one from a couple of years ago either that was thanking me for cheese or something.
This is the second or third time. Yeah, I know. He said thanks for this.
This is the second time. Yeah. Now, that time definitely seemed to have something to do with contractual negotiations.
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
And this time very well could too, because he had just been on Jimmy Fallon a night or two before saying that he was negotiating for a fight in July, which would make sense because that's the big UFC, you know, midsummer card, and that would be a good time for him to come back and fight. So is that, well, I guess first of all, just say, you know, let's maybe the assault allegations notwithstanding, do you believe it when you see that, as far as you think that's just an honest, you know what, I think I'm done fighting in MMA?
No, I think he's too young and there's too much money for him still at stake. I could see, though, if there look, I think people retire when they can no longer make money or it's no longer in their health to do so. And I don't think Conor falls under any of those categories. I still think he's one of those dangerous guys. You know, do I think that he's always going to have a hard time beating Khabib because of the wrestling? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, just stylistically, that guy is always going to be his Achilles heel. But that being said, there's not a lot of other guys I can think of that, you know, are shooing that, oh, yeah, Conor can't beat that guy. You know, pretty much everybody else, Conor is, he's in there. He's still a huge draw, even if he were to lose 2 or 3 more times. I don't think, you know, physically he seems very fit. I can't imagine he has any major injuries. He seems to be pretty good about taking care of himself on all levels as far as, you know, he was the motion guy.
Oh, yeah, the movement
coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, I mean, you can see the way he moves. You know, obviously he keeps himself relatively healthy, as any full-contact athlete can expect it to be. I think that it's, you know, that Conor is a smart guy, and if he's not using this for leverage as far as contractual negotiations, I think maybe there might be something to this the assault case. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that actually struck my mind first was I know that he's in trouble for the you know, what was
breaking
it?
the phone.
Yeah,
in Miami.
Smashing the phone.
Yep.
You know, because that's 2 offenses in the U.S. And I'm kind of wondering if maybe he got a little bit of, you know, kind of like I've always suspected that Jordan never retired from basketball because he wanted to go play baseball. I think he got suspended for gambling and then took time off.
A quick point of order, 3 offenses in the U.S. because you got the dolly throwing, you've got the jumping over the cage and running into the crowd, and then the phone smash.
Did the cage in the crowd happen here? I thought that was over in Ireland.
No, that was here. That was when he fought Khabib.
Khabib.
Oh no, that is. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the time that he jumped a Bellator cage.
That's right. Yep.
Oh, I was confused in that way. So that happened too.
Over there. Yeah.
That was overseas. But so anyway, so now so you're right. 3 offenses that if most people that aren't a citizen, they're just on a tourist visa, or not visa, I guess, whatever,
a work visa or something, maybe.
No, because with Europe, with the UK and stuff, we could just travel in there. You just. I've never had to have a visa to go as long as you have a passport.
But what about to work?
But he doesn't stay. I think
to work, you have to have. You're making money, so it's a little bit different.
But to your point, if you're a visitor,
right,
this kind of stuff gets on the radar, especially
and it's not like he's hiding under the radar. Everybody and their mother knows who Conor McGregor is. The guy's one of the most famous guys in the world right now.
Yeah.
So I was suspecting. I'm like, I wonder if he's catching some heat. And they're like, hey man, your 180-day suspension or a 2-year suspension, whatever, from traveling into the U.S. And then if he does have to compound that with, if you do have sexual allegation, issues, he might not be allowed to leave the country. You know what I mean? That's not unheard of, that someone's saying, hey, you're under allegations, yes, you're not going to sit in jail, you posted bond or whatever, but you got to relinquish your passport.
That is an interesting analogy that you draw to the Jordan retirement. Of course, he had the gambling allegations going around him when he retired from the NBA the first time. But if one has nothing to do with the other, it's incredibly coincidental. I mean, what are the chances that you retire one day kind of seemingly out of nowhere? I mean, it's not like there was already a lot of talk about you needing to be, retire. You're thinking about it. That happens, and then within 48 hours, the New York Times breaks this story. Especially with the big corporation that now owns the UFC. And wanting to steer clear as best they can of that kind of controversy, you could see a situation where they might be thinking, hey, you know what? If this story's going to break, especially on a huge platform like the New York Times, it might be better for us to be able to say former UFC fighter. Technically,
I think it works better for the UFC because, especially in today's Me Too movement in the U.S., you don't want to be on the wrong side of that at all. I mean, shit, you'll get shut down really fast. I know the UFC is super powerful, but I don't even think the NBA or the NFL really wants to take that movement on. I mean, Hollywood is one of the most powerful organizations I can think of, and look what the Me Too movement did there. It cleaned house pretty well. So I think that, one, it does well for the UFC, and two, I think Conor can then, he's so great at always creating the narrative. You know what I mean? The truth is what he says the truth is. I don't think he wants to go back to Ireland and say he did have to give up and relinquish his passport. Well, then asked why he can't travel to the U.S., he has to explain, well, this is going on, and they took my, Whereas now, he'd be like, I have no reason to go. I'm retired. You know what I mean? Like, it cuts out his ability to have to explain anything about his legal situation. He can purely stick to, I'm retired, I don't want to go there. I'm going to hang out here, wherever the case may be, and less is more, and then that way the narrative is whatever he wants it to be and not what the actual truth of the matter could possibly be.
Yeah, it's hard to know just because the negotiations were presumably going on for a July fight, at least according to Conor. So
can we bring up, Mikey, the rape allegation stuff?
Yeah, we can get to that.
Yeah,
so,
here's one.
Oh, what do you got first, though?
Yeah, no, just here's an article about it. Like I said, not much because of the way Ireland reports the facts on that. It's kind of just a couple people talk to the New York Times, but here's about where it starts right here.
The incident took place on December 10th, and then he was arrested in January. Now, he was arrested in Dublin, and the hotel where this happened, the way it was described in reports, is that it's an area of Ireland that's kind of like what we would consider like a business park area. Like there's a hotel there, but it's not like a hot happening hotel. It's like a hotel where business people are staying, kind of like that area of Chicago we stayed for your fight with Fedor. Like, it's Chicago, but it's really a suburb, and there wasn't a whole lot going on out there. It sounds like that's what they're describing. And this hotel was not super fancy. Like, apparently, Conor McGregor had been known to stay there at times before. But what he would do is that they've got one penthouse suite in the whole hotel. It's like one room that's multiple rooms, and he would just book that out periodically whenever he wanted it or wanted to stay there for some reason. So it does sound like there's pretty substantial information that he was there. I think it's just going to become a matter of
Yeah,
he
I don't
said,
think
she
gonna,
said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you said, Mikey, not a lot about it is known other than that, not who the woman is or how they knew each other or what she says happened or any kind of thing like that. I did see that according to the Times, I think some DNA was collected from the hotel suite.
Oh, so there goes the narrative that the UFC has a serious domestic assault problem.
Yeah, well, you know, they're not helping themselves with people like Greg Hardy right now. I mean, I realize that's not a Conor McGregor
and more,
name,
especially after seeing Greg Hardy's last fight,
Yeah.
how really he's not a talent when it comes to fighting. Why?
Yeah.
Just dump that dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I'll tell you what, you know, in amongst that, you've got real legit mental issues like what's going on with Tony Ferguson right now. You know, that's not him assaulting his wife. That's just him having some scary mental problems right now. And she's trying to help him get help. But if you think about it, think about how that could just sort of be lumped into everything.
Yeah.
People not paying attention the way we do, people just kind of casually catching headlines going, oh, God, it sounds like they got another one, you know, and they see a story like that. So, yeah, you're not helping yourself with having people like that around. But this one obviously takes on a whole other life of its own. I mean, my mother asked me about this one because she got the alert from the New York Times, you know. I mean, she knows up to the other day, she knew the name of one MMA fighter, which was Frank, because that's the one I do a podcast with. And then the other day, she was like, in fact, she asked me if you had ever fought Conor McGregor. That was my mom's
and I don't
MMA
understand
question.
why the UFC, on a side note, just because it sprung into my head, why the major organizations like a UFC or a Bellator, if you have a domestic violence on you, I don't think you could be under contract. Like, there's just certain things, like, we're so worried about some things, but at the same time, like, hey, you're a trained fighter. We need to somehow show that to our youth that's learning how to fight, that if you use these skills to beat up on somebody who can't really defend themselves against you, which is pretty much everybody versus a professional fighter.
Right.
And not even counting a man versus a woman now, and the man is the professional fighter. Like, you know, just I think it has to be a very black and white area. Be like, look, if you're convicted of domestic violence, we do it with other areas. You know, here in town, you know, if you're convicted of a domestic violence, even though it's not a felony, you can't have a CCW anymore.
Right.
Your ability to carry a gun is taken away from you because it's like, hey, you've shown a tendency or a personality trait of violence towards those that are weaker than you. We can't trust you to fucking carry a gun because, you know what I mean?
I think you can't even buy a gun.
Well, I think you can have rifles still, and you can own a pistol. But you can't carry it now.
Okay, I'd have to look that up because I think that flags you on.
No, because then you'd be a felon if you couldn't buy a gun.
Right, but I think it's felons and if you have a domestic on there.
Yeah, look it up. I'm curious.
Yeah,
Because I thought it was because when that law first got passed 20 fucking years ago that I can remember now, probably, there was people I knew that were police officers, you know, or didn't know them personally, but you heard about police officers that all of a sudden got stuck on desk jobs because now you're a police officer, you had a domestic violence in your past.
Well, that's an awkward.
That's a weird
an awkward
fucking
day at
thing,
the office,
yeah.
isn't it? Hey, Hank, how come you're on the desk? Oh, my knee's bothering me.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it just yeah.
Because I have friends that are police officers, and they won't even get into an argument with the girl that they're dating.
Yeah.
Because they're terrified of someone calling the cops on them. I mean, I have friends that have been like, hey, look, if one guy still dates a lot of young, crazy fucking girls, he's on Tinder, and he's told me, he goes, there's times that I have to leave them in my own fucking house because all of a sudden there's a misunderstanding and now voices are being raised. He goes, I fucking leave.
Well,
Fuck that shit. He bolts because he goes, I'm not having my friends, the other cops, show up here and have to make a fucking call that could affect the rest of my life.
And you know what, though? I think that's okay because it's a higher standard.
Yeah.
And especially when, to bring it back to mixed martial arts, you know, that the idea.
It is misdemeanors, too. Misdemeanor domestic will put you on the on the gun. It'll flag when you
Also, you cannot buy.
Yep.
Because it goes against, you think about it, not only Me Too, but anti-bullying, anything that is stronger picking on weaker, like you just said. And, you know, to me, one of the best defenses that I've always had for mixed martial arts, whenever I've talked about it to someone who doesn't follow it, you know, has kind of a cartoonish idea of what it's like. I have always proudly said, listen, most of the MMA fighters I know are docile people. Like, they're not going to be the loud drunk in the bar because they have confidence to know they can handle themselves if something bad happens, but they don't have anything to prove. I mean, there's exceptions to that, but I think for the most part we can agree on that. And that's the way it is in gyms. You know, any worthwhile gym, jiu-jitsu school, whatever, isn't going to be out of control with a bunch of assholes running around. It's going to be very much order and mutual respect.
Well, most of the time, assholes don't want to be in a gym because not every day you're at the top of the food chain.
Right.
It's a revolving door. Some days are good, some days are bad.
Right. So I always think that's an important thing to be able to fall back on when it comes to mixed martial arts, because it is violent. I mean, it is in a cage. It is, aesthetically, there are certain, it's made for stereotypes.
Yeah, but martial arts is in the word, in the name. Mixed martial arts. And I think the martial arts part still has to be for that reason of weeding people out and showing, I want that, 15-year-old kid that's learning how to choke people see somebody lose their career because they beat the shit out of their wife, and then their wife shows up and their nose, like, there has to be some kind of, like, if you're going to learn these skills, like, look, someone goes to rob you, break their fucking arms. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a time to step up to the plate and, and go alpha on somebody. But you can't do it to your fucking woman.
And, yes.
You know what I mean? And there just has to be, like, if you couldn't figure that out, your father didn't teach you that, we'll teach you that. You don't fucking beat the shit out.
I also think, too, that if we just simply applied the same approach that we would take in a gym, then the problem solved. And what I mean by that is, let's say, the same person who would be trying to make some excuses for Greg Hardy, let's say, if Greg Hardy joined your gym and you see him come in the first day and he goes over to the white belt class and just beats the hell out of some 150-pound guy, are you over there going, man, that is cool? Are you like, that guy's out of here, and I'm going to carry him out the door? Like, if you can apply that rule in a gym, why not in the real world?
And also too, like, and then just in case, because I always think about, I know we're gonna hear this. What happens if the woman's the aggressor? That's the beauty of being the more powerful, well-trained fighter. Mrs. Mir can pull out a box cutter, and I'm going to have no problem taking it away from her and putting her down without ever fucking hitting her. Because the disparity in our skill and physical abilities is such to a great level that if I had to break her fucking face in to protect myself, what does it say to me as a warrior? It's like, really? Like, that little 120-something pound, 5'1" chick scared the shit out of you so bad that you fucking laid into her? No. Fucking... I can grab her, wrist lock, throw down, pin, like, okay, please don't cut me. I didn't like that idea, And maybe the worst case scenario, she has a little bit of an Indian burn on her arm from where I grabbed her. But I cannot foresee any reason to close my hand and hit a less than opponent.
That's why she doesn't use the box cutter. That's why she takes you down with her words.
Yes.
You're defenseless.
It hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt.
Well, we'll see what develops here with Conor. But, to wrap up this story for now, the thing that I think the greatest open question about Conor right now is, has he just gone adrift? I mean, is he just at this point just gone the way of John Jones, where you're just going to not be able to keep track of which thing are we talking about,
I'm just afraid that...
Which incident? I can't keep track of them all now.
People like Conor, though, they need someone always to reel them in because they don't reel themselves in. I think that's why the old adage of fighter and a manager were actually a very symbiotic relationship that was important at some point.
Cus D'Amato and Mike Tyson.
Right, there. That is a stereotypical, perfect example of ferocious, young, strong athlete who has an older, wiser guy to go, hey, don't do this here, but do it here. Okay, hold on. You can't hurt that person, but you can sure the fuck hurt this person. You know what I mean? Like, let's direct this in a positive building way. And, you know, and Mike Tyson's mentality is never to say no, you know? And so if you think of Conor, I think sometimes has blurred the lines because he is so talented at it, being his own manager of sorts, his own PR rep, that those are positions of people that can sit there and go, no, buddy, this is a shitty fucking idea. Hell no. And because Conor, you know, I mean, the guy has ruled the fucking world, man. The guy's the top of the food chain. You know, when he sits back in the locker room, this guy is like, I'm the fucking champ. Nothing can fucking beat me. Okay, guess what? His switch doesn't flip off once he leaves that fucking cage or walks out of that boxing ring. He still flips on, and that, you know, I'm going to take the world by the fucking balls, and that mentality can get these athletes in trouble if they don't have that guy. And I feel like Conor doesn't have that guy to sit there and go, hey, man, no. You know what I mean? Hey, you want to do this shit? Cool. Hold on. Let me make a phone call. We're going to go over here and do it. Hold on. Fucking clear out. We're not doing this at a club. We're going to go to a house party. Or, no, you ain't doing this now. We can do it tomorrow, or I'll set it up. We'll go on a trip. You know, somebody that, you know, like says, hey, you know, because obviously no, he's going to fucking buck the system. But there's always that, you know, just like my kids. Hey, Dad, I want to go spend the night with all my friends over here. I'm like, I don't know those fucking parents. But I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and fucking let's go over to the pizza place and everybody can come to our house. And then, so it's not to tell them no. I just said yes in a different way that was safer for me, that made me more comfortable.
It also needs to be someone who's not just there to collect money. It's got to be somebody who values that person over whatever money that they generate or don't generate. I always think, too, that...
It almost has to be someone who, I mean, they're on your payroll, but you're right. That's how you get yes men. If they sit there and go, you know, Conor shouldn't be doing that right now. Are you going to fucking tell him? Nah, man, he's fucking paying me 6 digits a fucking year to sit here and fucking hold his fucking cell phone. I ain't fucking saying shit. You know what I mean? Like, now you're surrounded by a bunch of guys who'll be like, hey, should Conor be doing that right now? Are you going to fucking tell him? No, I ain't telling him.
And one of the reasons that he won't listen to that person is because he is paying them 6
he's
figures.
below him now.
How about the person tells him he shouldn't do it that doesn't have any financial interest in him? If anything's going to get through to him, it's going to be that. He's going to look at it and go, you know, that guy didn't even get anything from me, and he's telling me to do that. It's and you know, this is fantasy. This is much easier said than done. But I have always believed that one of the most important things somebody who is on that path of becoming a Conor McGregor, like just the elite of the elite, not only in terms of accomplishments, but in terms of financial worth, right? I'm not talking about being a millionaire. I'm talking about you might be on a trajectory to become a billionaire. Floyd Mayweather, somebody like that. They always get wrapped up. Look at what Floyd does. Everything is, look at everything I've got. Everything is, how much money can I spend? How fast can I spend it? How many different things can I buy? It's what I've got. If one of those guys or girls could early on adapt the mentality of, you know what, I'm going to intentionally not do that. I'm going to be ironically rich, where, yeah, I got a lot of money, but rather than pay, you know, $500,000 for a car, I'm going to drive a common car and I'm going to tip the valet $500 to park it up front to fuck with rich people. Like, I would like to see that guy. I'd like to see the guy who would be like, no, the fun is in the fact that, yeah, I still go eat at Waffle House, but I rent out the whole Waffle House. That's how we do it. You know, I mean, I don't know how to phrase that, but if that makes sense.
Like a very rich troll.
Yes, exactly. It's a great way to, like, troll rich assholes. I think that would be a lot of fun. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, but also, too, I think the best person...
Wealthy troll.
I'm a big proponent of being married to somebody. I think as a famous person who's always under the light, you don't really fucking know who to trust. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't know, like, are you being my friend because of you like me, or are you being my friend because of other factors? That's why, like, you know, that's why I think think of the person you want to fucking kick the shit out of most in life. It's usually your spouse. Want to know why? Because they're usually telling you shit that you don't want to fucking hear. Why don't you want to hear it? Because it's fucking probably true. And they're the one person who'll sit there and go, Yeah, you're full of shit, dude. That's not. What are you thinking? And then you look at them, and everybody else is going to sugarcoat it or avoid it with you. But this motherfucker comes up and goes, "No, that's fucking stupid. What were you thinking?" And then you're angry. But then when you calm down, you think about it. You're like, "Fuck, they're right." You know what I mean? Like, you know how many times I've had that with my wife, where I just sit there and go, "Well, you know," and then as I'm explaining, I'm like, "Who am I trying to convince? I'm trying to convince myself. Why am I trying to convince myself? Oh, I'm full of shit right now, aren't I? God damn it." Do you know what I mean? Like, and as a spouse, I think they have the best authority out of everybody. Because, look, a friend, we don't live together. I just won't fucking call you. A coach, you can fire. That's a little bit more difficult to get rid of your wife. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's a little bit easier to go ahead and sit there and go, well, I'm full of shit on this situation, or vice versa. You know, let me go ahead and try to fix this and be a better person. So I think that I think it's a much easier way for me to always keep grounded to reality, is that I've been married my whole career. And so anytime, you know, things come up and I get a little off of center, you know, she's always there to be like, hey, is that really why you got into this? Is it what really you want to be remembered for? And I could be like, oh, yeah, you're right. No, I don't. I get a little distracted there, you know, because you're in the middle of the storm. Sometimes you lose your bearing.
Yeah, and it's a real, if you don't get that in order, whether it be the spouse or the no man, we'll call him, the opposite of the yes man, you know, or whatever, the reality check guy, if you don't get all that in order as you ascend, it's real difficult to put it in place once you're
well, that's why I thought Conor had what I have.
Yeah.
You know, when Jennifer and I got together, fuck, I was working as a bouncer at the Rhino. I think I fought for, you know, at that moment before I got into the UFC, I fought for $500. You know what I mean? So, like, any ideas of me being rich, you know, at the time, I mean, this is fucking 2001. No one was rich fighting in the UFC, you know? The UFC guys, Dana wasn't rich. You know what I mean? Like, no one fucking, I mean, I think at that point they had bought and sold the UFC at that time for $1.5 million. No one was fighting for $1 million. The organization wasn't even worth it. And from what I've read of understanding of Conor, like, his wife and him were together when he was on, you know, the Irish's version of welfare, WIC, or whatever they call it there.
Adole.
You know, yeah, some kind of adole. That's right. So he has that person that he knows has been with him through thick and thin. You know what I mean? She was with him when he was a nobody, and she'll be with him when people forget who he is, you know, because eventually we're all forgotten, you know? So he has that person, you know? I think sometimes just making sure that you still listen to that person, and her, you know, not being afraid to go ahead and call him out on his shit, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes, you know, and I've seen other professional fighters where their woman just, you know, or athletes or superstars in general, where their woman started out with them from the beginning, but then the other one gets so big, they're almost afraid to get left behind. Like, well, what if he leaves me? I'm like, fuck him. You've been with long enough, you'll get half his shit. Trust me, he'll rethink it. You know what I mean? Like,
and a lot of that could have to do with that other person's personality to begin with. If they're a strong type of person, they'll be up for it. But if not, that, you know, they could succumb to it too.
I forgot he was married, especially like, I don't know, I'm recently married. I don't think I could go to Miami with 6 friends and like fuck around and break somebody's phone without catching shit back at home. Like, he lives like he's not married.
Yeah,
it's super, super weird.
I
like,
mean,
could you go to like, hey, I'm going to Miami? Yeah.
Did he actually
I'm going
get
to New
married,
York next
though?
week. My wife's with me. If
I'm not
anybody
sure he's
sees me when I go to an
legally married,
appearance, my wife goes with me. She goes with me almost everywhere, you know, because one, she's like the ultimate assistant, you know what I mean? Like, where everybody else is like, yeah, get an extra hour. And she's like, fuck you, he's been standing here for 6 hours. We're going to go get some food, you know? And then also, too, just better decisions are made, man. Just, it really is. You know, we're all human. We're all fallible. You know, we can all fucking make mistakes. You know, I tell everybody, it's like, you know, if you work at McDonald's and you're trying to watch your diet, you're probably set up for disaster. You know, same thing. Me as a man, if I start hanging out in clubs without my wife, by myself, look, dude, it's only a matter of time before something happens that shouldn't be happening. I mean, you know, the strongest of men, you don't stick yourself, you know what I mean? Like, you don't put yourself in those situations day in and day out and think you're going to get away unscathed. And if you tell me you think you're that guy, you're delusional and it might be fucking happening. Well, fucking this asshole. I forgot about, as I'm talking, I'm like, oh yeah, there's you.
Yeah.
You can work at a brothel and be good. But most just normal mortal men would have an issue day in and day out hanging out around hookers.
Well, Jennifer's a good bad cop for you too. Because Mikey, I once saw, won't explain all the circumstances, but we were all in a situation, the Mirs and my Jennifer, we were all together at a situation where, let's just say, the place we were going had fouled up the reservations or something we were supposed to do, right? Mm-hmm. So Jennifer Mir is up front dealing with it, and she just starts going, the people are like trying to make these excuses, and she just goes, no. That's all she's saying, but it's like, this is completely unacceptable. Like, no. And I've thought, from the other person's perspective, they must be wondering why this giant guy behind her is like shaking. Like, why does he look like he's about to get beaten? Like, this is something's falling apart here. And Frank has this look on his face, like, you're just making it. Yeah, to the person, the customer service person, hey, this is getting worse. You need to just bail out. Yeah. All right. Well, that's obviously this is going to be an ongoing story. Okay. Speaking of ongoing stories. It's been 2 years. The Mueller report gets delivered to the Attorney General, Bob Barr, over the weekend, and that's where we're at. Now, here's what we have to look at so far, Frank. So Bob Mueller takes his report to the Attorney General, who's technically his boss in this situation, and the Attorney General then determines whether or not that report gets made public, whether or not we see all of it, whether or not maybe we see a portion of it that's redacted. But in the meantime, the Attorney General whips up about a 4-page statement that is basically his summary of what the report says. So he says in that summary that Robert Mueller concluded that Donald Trump, that neither, the exact wording was that neither any Trump campaign official or Trump or any American citizen knowingly colluded with the Russians to essentially cheat in the election. Now, that is great news. That's not only is it great news for Trump, that is great news for America. Like, regardless of who you like, who you don't like.
Our president didn't commit treason.
You don't ever, you do not ever want that. And so it's nice that, we've been able to put that to bed. Now, as we have talked about all things political on this show, one thing you've always heard me say is I haven't seen any evidence of that. My big concern is that I think I've seen obstruction of justice committed a couple of times just right in front of me, like just right out in public, and I'm really worried about what's happened behind the scenes. Where the obstruction of justice consideration was addressed, according to Bob Barr, he says that Mueller, and he quotes Mueller in the report, saying that while he couldn't decide that Trump was guilty of obstruction, he also could not exonerate him. And now, keep in mind, we have not heard from Mueller on this, so that's a whole other thing to this. We need to get a look at this report before we know too much about it. But at that point, because he could not reach the conclusion, it was left to Bob Mueller and Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, to reach the conclusion. And according to Bob Barr, he and Rosenstein both concluded that there was not sufficient evidence to charge Trump of obstruction of justice. But we haven't seen the report yet. We also don't know what Mueller has to say, if that was his intention, because the next thing we're going to have happen here, because Mueller doesn't just tweet to tell us what all he's thinking. What we're going to have happen here very likely is that Congress is going to call Robert Mueller as a witness, and they're going to say, is this what the report said? Is that what you meant? Why couldn't you reach a conclusion? Did you mean for Congress to decide that rather than the Attorney General, and get the answers from here? Bob Barr will probably also get called as well. And Donald Trump, of course, wasting no time and declaring it a complete vindication. I think he's got reason to feel great relief over the collusion aspect of it. My personal opinion is I think he's jumping the gun a little bit on the obstruction until we really hear it out and see the report. But he also may be banking on the idea that, whoever strikes first kind of controls the narrative. So let me just claim that, get that out there, and then over the coming weeks, once the report comes out, if it's less than a complete exoneration from obstruction, then how much will that get covered? Maybe not as much as the initial news. I'll make one more point though before I throw it to you for your thoughts. One thing this report definitively said is that the Russians interfered in the 2016 election. And that's the same thing that our intelligence agencies have said. They also said that numerous attempts were made by the Russians to offer help to the Trump campaign. Now, great news that there was no evidence of them seizing on it, taking it. Awesome. But what that also says is that the Trump campaign knew that they were being offered this type of assistance. The Obama administration knew, they found out, kind of in the 11th hour, but they knew that the Russians were trying to interfere in the election. And Obama, likely because they didn't want to be accused of rocking the boat and trying to help Hillary out by claiming that Russians were getting involved in the election. Because if you think about it, 2 years ago, now that's something a lot of people are like, yeah, well, no shit, obviously that happened. 2 years ago, we would have been like, wait a minute, what? Russians, okay, it sounds like a conspiracy theory.
Some Cold War shit.
Obama's trying to avoid that, but at the same time, the Trump campaign is not saying to the Obama administration, hey, these guys are calling us. Like, you might want to look into this, The same way that there's a famous example I think I've referenced before of when Al Gore ran against George W. Bush, and the Gore campaign came into possession of like a debate playbook that the Bush campaign was going to use, and they just gave it back to him and said, hey, actually, we're playing fair. We don't want any part of this. So that obviously didn't happen. So the fact that the report said, hey, without a doubt, Russians successfully influenced this election with misinformation, the fact that the president, and it happens to be Trump, but this would apply to any president, the fact that a president gets information like that, and on this same day that he's exonerated from collusion, and it's fine to say, hey, look at me, awesome for me, no collusion. Where is the statement of, but you know what? We got some bad news. We got it verified that the Russians jacked around in the campaign. I don't think they helped me win, but I don't like the fact that they were in there. And let me tell you, as the sitting commander-in-chief, I'm going to do everything I can to make damn sure they don't do it again. There's no talk of that. No mention of it whatsoever. I had to bring it up. That's more than he said about it.
Yeah, I think that's because he doesn't want to admit to that. I think that if Trump, because at first I thought, I was betting that there was going to be collusion just because of all the things we're seeing that Trump was doing to try to avoid this investigation.
Yeah.
From day one, he's been on a witch hunt to avoid anybody that wants to turn this rock over. And so to me, my mindset has always been, if an officer goes, hey, guy, look in your trunk, and I'm doing everything in my power to keep you from looking in my trunk, and then you open my trunk and there's nothing in there, you'd almost be like, hey, why did you give a shit? Why didn't you just say, go ahead, look, I don't give a fuck? You know what I mean? Like, why, going out of your way to obstruct me from looking somewhere that's completely harmless, unless you're guilty of something. There's a dead hooker in the trunk. I completely get why you're panicking about the officer looking in your trunk. And so with Trump, I was like, well, he has to be guilty. Why does he fucking keep firing people and doing all, some blatant obstruction of justice? I'm like, holy shit, can you do that? Things that I didn't even think a president was allowed to do. He's taught me more about the presidency. And then when this comes out, and basically it's saying, well, he didn't knowingly, collude with the Russians, or none of his, people did. I'm all, well, why the fuck would you why weren't you the first one wanting this investigation to happen? If you're innocent, why are you not the one pushing this? Why were you the one kicking and screaming and dragging your heels into the ground like a fucking baby? I don't understand. And then when I've read more about it and go, oh, okay, I get it. Your ego doesn't want to admit what you already know to everybody else, that you didn't win the presidency. Mm-hmm. You really didn't win. The Russians helped you win. Now, even though you didn't knowingly collude with them or take any help from them, you kind of sat there knowing that they were working on the other side and kept your fucking mouth shut. That in itself, I think, is an issue. You know what I mean? It's one thing, secrets amongst each other, the Republicans don't tell the Democrats what they're thinking and vice versa. But fuck, we're all Americans. You know what I mean? That doesn't bother me. Trade secrets amongst U.S. citizens, fucking keep it. But if a foreign power comes in and is trying to influence the U.S., we're not red or blue team anymore. We're all fucking Americans. You know what I mean? Like that's my mindset. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, hey, it's almost kind of getting into a fight with your brother. Well, I know this is, me and my brother are close friends. We can be fucking mad at each other. But the minute a third party comes involved, we're united now against that third party. And then once that third party's conquered, we might go right back to our squabble and what we're pissed off about. But goddamn it, you're not dividing us. You know what I mean? Like, no, not you. We can fight with each other, but no one else is coming in here and fucking with our shit.
Yeah, I get that. And to go back to using that car search analogy, Trey Gowdy, Republican congressman, who was Mr. Benghazi during the Benghazi hearings. I mean, this is, certainly no friend of Hillary Clinton, said at one point, he said, listen, when you're innocent, don't act guilty. And he was talking about Trump when he said it. He said, don't exhibit guilty behavior. So to use your analogy, if that car got pulled over and if there is no body in the trunk, let's say, right? But and the cop pops the trunk, doesn't find the body, but like you said, you were doing everything you could to keep him
in this situation, I actually break laws to keep you from looking in the trunk. Yes. I jumped in the car, I drove it away from the cops and ran it over the fucking hill and smashed it into the lake. And they're like, oh shit, you're obviously hiding something. So when they open up the trunk, they're like, so wait a minute, you just evaded arrest, fucking trashed your vehicle, and there's nothing in the trunk? The fuck is wrong with you?
And how about this one? Frank, what happened to all the guys that were in the car with you? Oh, they all got arrested because they're all fugitives. I mean, this thing actually netted criminals. I mean, there's people going to prison for lying about this. There's his campaign manager, Paul Manafort, that was sharing the polling data with the Russians. There's Roger Stone, who's been indicted. There's Mike Flynn, who straight up lied about talking to the Russians. So these are all things that, listen, that doesn't mean ultimately that you're guilty of the collusion, Donald Trump, but you can't look at us and go, why are you all looking at me when all these people around you, these are people you hired, by the way, because you hire the best people. These are people you wanted to surround yourself with and continue to defend them. I mean,
my honest opinion? He absolutely fucking colluded. We just couldn't catch him.
Well, maybe. I
mean, there's just no way you act that guilty. And I get it. There's a part of me that goes, well, he just doesn't want to admit that his campaign was helped by the Russians, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm like, how much are you really going to step onto him? Like, there's just no way. You acted so guilty that I'm having a hard time believing that you didn't commit a crime. Now I just feel you just didn't get caught. You know what I mean? There's lots of guys that don't get caught doing shit, you know what I mean? I'm like, you know what? This guy he was smart enough never to fucking make it a text, ever have a meeting in the same room. Right. He always had somebody else do his dirty work for him, high-profile businessman. I mean, Trump says he's smart, so I think he just,
Also this, I think when you have made a career out of living on and operating on the margins, stuff that isn't, let's use bankruptcy law, for example. Certainly not illegal. Certainly he's within his right to have 4 bankruptcies. But he considered that kind of work in the system, right? Yeah. So you make a career out of that, and you also make a career out of bringing in people like Roger Stone, who will do what they need to do to get something done, right? You're not necessarily bringing them in because you know that they're going to go break laws. But when somebody comes to you, when you've kind of got a whole apparatus, a whole organization like that with some shady characters hanging around, and somebody goes, hey, did this illegal thing happen? You can't just say, oh, no way. Not anybody I'm associated with. No chance. It's what happens in the back of your mind is you go, I don't know. Who knows what happened? You can't say that with confidence. There's a guy actually one of our good listeners that I go back and forth with on Twitter politically because we're opposites. But one thing that he acknowledges that we both agree on is, listen, Trump, nobody thought he was getting this nomination. And so the only people he could get in his political circle at the time, all the legitimate people were paired up with other folks that were running, Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio, these kind of guys. This is what he could get. It's like when, when your dating pool is real shallow, you know what I mean?
Like an R. Kelly publicity man.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. Yes, Daryl Johnson, my new favorite tabloid superstar. Exactly. You're going to get the Daryl Johnsons of the world. So, one other thing, and we talked about this too. This is one thing I think is for sure is this is just kind of the beginning of the next chapter to see what all is in that report. But I'll tell you something, and this, hold me to this, because as the God I don't believe in as my witness, if Bernie Sanders gets elected the next president of the United States, which would be a nice day for me, I want whoever is the next president to work toward eliminating some of these imperial opportunities that the office of the presidency can have that I think we didn't really fully realize until the last couple of years. All these things that we felt like technically a president could do, but they never would. That's unspoken. It's like a unwritten rule, you know. They're never going to actually do that because of the way it would appear, because that would be putting agenda over country, things like that. I want the next person to actually, from the office, I want them to weaken the office, if that makes sense. And by weaken, I just mean shore up those loopholes.
So up the loose ends.
Yeah, and I think Congress on a bipartisan level should work with them to do it. And let's have certain standards. Here's another one. You know, Bernie Sanders hadn't released his tax returns yet. I think he will, and he says he will, but he hasn't yet. I will not vote for him if he doesn't release his tax returns. Period, end of story. Every president since Nixon's released them, and we didn't have a law because we thought that, well, who's going to not do it now?
A lot of the states are putting it on the books now.
Yeah.
That's going to screw Trump for his next election.
Yeah. I mean, does anybody, what about you, Mike? I mean, would you have a problem with passing a law that says if you're either the Republican or the Democrat, you know, a major party nominee for president, you have to release your tax returns?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't mind that. I mean, yeah.
Well, I think it's a requirement to be as transparent as possible.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a political leader. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to run for office because I'm not really ready to fucking open up my closet and share my skeletons with the world.
Yeah.
But I kind of think that that's a requirement. Like, hey, you want to be the president of the United States? Like, well, I want a certain amount of freedom or privacy. Hey, buddy, that just the two don't go hand in hand, man. Public service and privacy of your private life. I'm all, nah, man, because your private life is influencing who you are as a person, and who you are as a person is going to dictate how you lead us as a you know, being in a leadership role. Yeah, I got to know about that shit, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't like it, someone else can go and step up.
And there's other jobs for you if you're not down.
And I get it. I don't fault you for it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jobs I don't do, but I expect it of the people that do choose to do that job. And I don't think I'm being a hypocrite because I just sit there and go, yeah, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, look, I'm not a firefighter. I don't want to sit there. If we see a burning building and everybody's standing by the side, I'm not the first one to volunteer to go save someone I don't know. Just not my personality. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, you know, I got kids to take care of. I think of those things. But if you go to school to be a firefighter and you have the same mentality as me, I'm going to fucking clown you and be like, hey, buddy, you chose to do this job. This is what you want to do. Fucking run in there. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you know what I mean? You don't like it? Fine. Do what I do. But it'd be like me being as what I've chosen to do as a professional fighter and me being in the back locker room and going, fuck that, I'm not going out there. Well, then there'd be a problem. You know what I mean? Like, well, I thought you chose this, right?
Yeah, you want the job. It's kind of to borrow your analogy again, it's kind of like the trunk is always open to be searched. That's just the deal. You know what? Because you're driving a company car. How about that?
Yeah.
How about the fact that you don't own that privately? That's you are an employee, and listen, that is something that I think a lot of politicians need to be checked on, which is you work for me. It isn't the other way around.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
especially people who have worked their whole lives in the private sector, they're used to being the owner of the company. Guess what? The tables have turned 180 degrees now. And you're my
One thing
employee.
someone today at the gym was sitting there talking. They weren't saying it to me, but next to me we were sitting there rolling out, and I can hear the conversation. And what they say, they said, they go, look, you know, the Barr's, summary of the Mueller report was like 4 pages long. They're like, Ken Starr's was like over the blowjob.
Oh, he put out a book.
It was like 500 pages, I guess is what he was saying. I was trying to Google it, and it was right. It was like 400 something. I'm like, oh, shit. Wait a minute. Hold on. What am I not understanding here? You know what I mean? Like, getting your dick sucked is that much of a problem, but then, you know, the issues of what we're talking here with all the different people involved, them all. 4-page summary?
And hey, listen, let's put some heat on Clinton for a second. The idea that there should be a standard that you know, because now what we end up talking a lot about is, well, constitutionally, can a sitting president be charged with, can they be indicted? You know, a lot of people say no, that you'd have to wait till they were out of office. All that stuff aside, if a president obstructs justice, that might be a good place to draw a line.
Absolutely.
That might just be a good place where we go, listen, whether or not you're going to serve any time for it, this is a privileged job. This is a job that you can be fired from by Congress vis-a-vis the American public at any point. I mean, you've got millions and millions of however many millions of people are in the country are eligible to vote. Those are all your bosses.
I think that's definitely an impeachable offense immediately. I think it's just, as the President of the United States, you're obstructing our law from working.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't get any higher than you.
Right. And it's a higher standard, just like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, by having a higher standard with things like domestic abuse and stuff like that for a fighter that maybe you don't apply to other people. That's just the deal, you know? That's we've got physical requirements for airline pilots that we don't have for other people. You know, not fair. That's not fair that I have to, you know, meet a certain level of physical fitness to fly a plane. Actually, yeah, it is. That's just fine, because your job requires things that and has responsibilities associated with that other people don't. All right. Well, yeah, it was a big week, but if you follow it, it's definitely not. The good news is, and then let's go back and accentuate the positive. The good news is that if Mueller is able to draw that conclusion that he couldn't, you know, find enough evidence of the collusion, then good. But Trump has said a number of times this week since this report came out that he doesn't want any president. He doesn't want this to happen to any president again. I don't. What I think it should be.
What doesn't he want to be investigated?
Yeah. Well, and he's concerned obviously for himself, but what I think the way that should be phrased is that we shouldn't want any president to be able to get themselves in this situation again, or to get themselves in this situation again, even if you're innocent. Let's say he's innocent, great, but let's have this be a cautionary tale about don't get yourself in this jam. Don't get yourself in the car with all the felons, jumping the median, being on the high-speed chase, evading getting pulled over, just so you can say, after it's all said and done, okay, look, you didn't find anything in the trunk, to use your analogy. Yeah. You know?
The drugs aren't mine.
Whole lot of
doesn't ever hold up in most people, unless you're rich, I guess.
Whole lot of this could have been avoided. What did you think, Mikey? What was your take on it all so far?
Man, this is one I never really super paid attention to, and I guess I felt bad about it, but it's just so complex that I just I'm like, let me wait for the thing to come out. He didn't collude. I didn't think they'd be able to prove anything. I don't know. This one was just like, I kind of, every time it came out, it just seemed like you had to really be like a political nerd to dive into this one.
Hello.
Yeah, buddy.
yeah.
And I
got my hand raised.
It just had so much, and and that back, I actually like that it's a 4-page report, because I might read a 4-page report about what happened. You know what I mean? I'm not going to read a book about what happened. I might, 4-page, 2-3 minutes. It's like when you're going through YouTube videos on how to fix this, how to do that. It's like 20-minute video. No way.
Yeah.
5-minute video. Okay.
Why aren't they going to make it public? I mean, McConnell? I keep seeing that he's fighting. He's pretty much the ringleader for fighting to keep this thing. What would be the reasoning for not wanting? Once again, if I was Trump and this thing exonerated me, fucking throw that thing out there. I'm like, hey guys, can we just put this up on Facebook and just anybody can read it right now? Boom, let's go.
They're going to have to redact anything that has to do with national security, which I understand. Let's say there's something very specific in there that they need to redact. Okay, but short of that, I do think the whole thing needs to be made public. And I'll tell you, an old Republican on the opposite side of McConnell on that is Chuck Grassley, senator from Iowa, who is as old and curmudgeonly as they get, but he's already on record as saying, listen, the American people paid for this. If something's going to cost $25 million, whatever the price tag is, you're damn right they're going to see it, because they paid for it. So put it out there. And I think that is going to be important to do. Barr has said that it will be released in weeks, not months. That was his quote. It won't take months. It'll be weeks, and they'll have to look. But I do think he has to be very careful about not holding anything back that isn't just national security stuff that, you know, everybody can agree on should be held back. Because, and I also think that's why even in his summary that he issued, when he said the line about that while it didn't find sufficient evidence to charge Trump of obstruction, it also did not exonerate him. Barr didn't want to put that in there. I think he put it in there because he realized, hey, if this thing comes out publicly and I just conveniently left that part out of my 4-page summary, people are going to be like, okay, you were in the tank. You know, like, why aren't you didn't really paint an accurate picture. All right. Do we have time to touch on one more? Are we okay?
We're an hour
a minute?
Yeah.
All right. Jussie Smollett. How about that guy?
Guilty?
Whole case got dropped against him.
But it got dropped. Look, it got dropped because they drop cases on guys that have no priors. I think I heard the attorney general for that state, for Chicago, for
Illinois.
Illinois, thank you. I can't remember Chicago, the state of Chicago. I'm an idiot. Illinois. Saying that, hey, we had 5,700 cases of felonies just this last year with people with no priors. We look at a case-by-case situation and, you know what I mean, like, don't go forward with prosecuting these cases. It doesn't mean he's innocent. They all even said he's not innocent. He, you know, but basically we're not going to go through because, like, at this point, we would only be doing it because he is famous. Whereas somebody else, some Joe Blow that does the same exact crime he would have done with no priors, would get the, okay, community service and a public apology and you're out of here. And we'll drop the charges. Not innocent. Just that's just the way our judicial system works.
Yeah, I guess the weird thing appearance-wise about it, though, is there was no, like, there was no plea deal. Like, for example, he forfeited his bond. It was a $10,000 bond, right? So, yeah, it would certainly...
Which you don't have to do if you're innocent.
Right. It would certainly stand to reason that...
You're guilty.
Yeah, because that would be, I guess, what, like extortion otherwise? Because if the cops were just like, okay, yeah, you're innocent, but you know what? Why don't you go ahead and let us keep the money?
Let me tell you you're innocent. I'm going to go ahead and keep money from you.
That'd be like bribing the federales.
You'd fucking lose your mind.
Yeah.
And this guy's not losing his mind. He's trying to jump on the fact, like, see, I'm innocent. Like, no, only people that don't know how to fucking read are going to think you're innocent. You're absolutely guilty of what you did. Yeah. That's why you had to give up your bond. And again, I think, what is it? Community service and an apology, I think.
He had done some community service.
He never apologized. He doubled down and said he's innocent the whole time. That's what's, I think.
I think he's supposed to give an apology as part of the agreement, though.
I haven't seen that. I
haven't seen that either, because someone even mentioned that, like, because in his thing, I don't know. I think I have the video of him.
See, because that's the point, Frank. Yeah, his statement.
No, he's trying to paint the narrative that he's innocent.
Yeah.
No,
because that's the weird thing is there is no kind of acknowledgement of anything. Is this it right here?
I think it's this one.
Yeah, this is a
plus two. I mean, really, let's be realistic. Hold on, before we start this.
Yeah.
If I snatched your fucking ass up, put a rope around your head, fucking was gonna beat your ass. Screw fucking it being racially or even, like, you know, calling you homosexually motivated in any way, you know, orientation. The minute, and if someone thought you made this shit up, and the minute no longer you are innocent, that'd be the first thing I'm going for. Like, okay, motherfuckers, I'm glad we're getting past me, but these motherfuckers I need to get. They had a rope around my fucking neck. They were going to fucking kill me or, you know, throw chemicals on me. Like, where's the rage towards the person that actually fucking did something to you?
Right.
There is none.
Let's hear Jussie Smollett's statement. Blow it up big there for our YouTube viewers. This is his statement outside the courthouse.
A couple notes. First of all, I want to thank my family, my friends, the incredible people of Chicago and all over the country and the world who have prayed for me, who have supported me, who have shown me so much love. No one will ever know how much that has meant to me, and I will forever be grateful. I want you to know that not for a moment was it in vain. I've been truthful and consistent on every single level since day one. I would not be my mother's son if I was capable of one drop of what I've been accused of. This has been an incredibly difficult time, honestly one of the worst of my entire life. But I am a man of faith, and I'm a man that has knowledge of my history, and I would not bring my family our lives or the movement through a fire like this. I just wouldn't. So I want to thank my legal counsel from the bottom of my heart. And I would also like to thank the state of Illinois for attempting to do what's right. Now I'd like nothing more than to just get back to work and move on with my life. But make no mistakes, I will always continue to fight for the justice, equality, and betterment of marginalized people everywhere. So again, thank you for all the support. Thank you for faith, and thank you to God. Bless y'all. Thank you.
Pause it. Frank, just so you know, if I ever have to stand behind you in a courthouse like this, I am not going to be standing there wearing fucking sunglasses indoors. That guy in the matching Under Armour outfit was like
the bodyguard.
Yeah, he went to the
Billy Badass.
He went to the Daryl Johnson School of PR. Anyway, well, that's his statement. So he continues to maintain his innocence, but the bond is forfeited. The community service has been done, and the other thing is too. No one's real sure what the story is with the brothers, the two they were from Nigeria.
The guy he actually fucking wrote the check to.
They confessed and said that he paid him, and so but
they did pay him. There's a paper trail on money. There's a check,
and they
fucking dumbass Jussie doesn't even know how to fucking do crimes properly. Like, hey asshole, cash is king, dude. Fucking no paper trail, you dumb shit.
Yeah. But they haven't really spoken publicly, so we don't really know.
So, no.
I mean, I don't. Now the other thing too is the case is sealed. Smollett's attorneys sealed the court records, so you can't. Because another point that's being made is, well, why seal them? Like, again, not searching the trunk of the car. Like, if you've got all this suspicion on you, why not just go, hey, here's
guilty.
Here's the
seal
evidence.
Seal it so at least the court of a public opinion, which is still out, doesn't fry him.
What are we looking at here?
This is actually released like after I was looking up links for the show.
Yeah,
this is pretty recent. I guess because the Chicago Police Union wants the federal investigation into the Attorney General Chicago, the lady who officially dropped the case.
Yeah.
And so they released some more evidence. This is the police files of the Smollett case.
See, that's the thing. I wish if I was Smollett's people, less is more. Like here, either A, you really are innocent, and let's get pissed off at the people that, you know what I mean, that jumped your ass. Or you're guilty and stop saying you're innocent, because all you're going to do is piss off all the Chicago Police Department, the mayor of Chicago, everybody else is sit there going, okay, fuck you. We let you off the hook, but if you constantly want to make us look bad, we're going to fucking come back around for you.
I just think this is funny. This is them buying the supplies.
Yeah.
They got a red hat. Yeah. And then there's the ski mask.
Yep.
It's just really funny.
Yeah, the surveillance footage at the hardware store of the Nigerian brothers buying all their stuff. Yeah, I never understood why, if you're going, because I've seen other criminals make this mistake too. If you're going to commit a crime, if you don't already have stuff, go get it like out of a junkyard or something.
Yeah, secondhand store.
Yeah, don't go to the store where there's a receipt. You know, and surveillance footage.
Now he thought about it. Brought his hoodie up.
Yeah.
Or you can use the Amazon link and get all that.
Or use that. That's right. At least go. Thank you, Mikey, for pointing that out. If you're going to commit a crime, at least get your supplies by going to phoneboothfighting.com.
You go to fucking Starbucks.
Yeah.
Bounce your VPN number on. There's ways to do this, people.
Yeah.
That ain't it.
Yeah.
I love that image of the ski mask with the white cardboard, so you see the clear, like the eye and the mouth. It's just so hilarious.
I didn't notice that. That's awesome.
You couldn't. I mean, if you were making a movie, like that's something you would see. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's
it would be
perfect.
a comedy.
Yeah, it'd be
because it would lose some sense of realism. If that was like a John Wick movie, you'd be like, oh, that's stupid. They wouldn't really do that. Like, this is Home Alone type criminals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
speaking of Jussie Smollett, now who would have thought it would end up being a better week for Smollett than it was one of his attorneys? I didn't even thought to mention this one until just now. You reminded me, Mark Garagos. Mark Garagos, who was involved in representing Jussie Smollett, a famous high-profile attorney, represented Michael Jackson, represented Scott Peterson.
He represents all scumbags.
Some shady characters.
Name me a good person he fucking did.
But he was named as the, I guess, an unindicted co-conspirator, so he's not charged with it. Maybe he's a cooperating witness or something. But in a case that got made the last couple of days against Michael Avenatti, the attorney for Stormy Daniels, you hear about this? He is accused of trying to extort like $22 million from Nike.
Yeah, I read about that.
He calls up Nike. He had information from some former coach of a university that Nike was paying families of college athletes, which would be illegal. And he called allegedly and said, I'm going to leak this news on the eve of the NCAA tournament starting. It's going to cause your stock to drop unless you first he wanted.
And he told him like to take $1 billion right off your top there. Right?
Yeah, and the allegation is that he said you can pay me to do an internal review. So in other words, cut me some money, but you can say I'm doing a job. I'm you're paying me for an internal review, and then or you can just pay me outright. And I think that's allegedly where he mentioned the $22 million. I've always listened.
And then another guy too, he wanted to get paid too, right?
Yeah,
they didn't have another unnamed person like pay him.
That was Garagos. Somehow
that was Garagos. Okay,
somehow Garagos hadn't said anything about this. There's a Mark Garagos right there. But somehow he is. It's suggested that he is, but he's not charged with anything. So the speculation is that could mean he's cooperating, like he's a witness to something. No one's really sure about his involvement. But I'll say this though, guys like Michael Avenatti, when you have the Donald Trumps and the Stormy Daniels and all these kinds of shady characters, people like this are going to come around. The Michael Cohens, all these people are just like, you're like, ugh. And one gives way to another. It's like one introduces
That's a
another.
big time jail offense though, right?
Oh yeah. It's
you're talking like prison time,
sure.
like 3 to 5 years type shit.
Prison
right?
for sure would happen. I'm just happy.
Or maybe not. How many years did what's his name get? Billions or millions.
Who were you thinking of?
Just now with the latest.
Michael Cohen?
Yeah, no, not Cohen. Who's the other guy?
Paul Manafort?
Thank you.
Manafort. Oh, yeah.
Because didn't he only get like 5 years or some shit?
Yeah, I think it's all going to add up to maybe around that 7, something like that between both of his cases. But, we'll see what he gets.
Those people get fucking lifetime for stealing $100.
I'm just glad that we were able to preserve Nike's sterling representation. I mean, who had any clue this was a shitty company, All right, so I guess...
I wonder, out of anger now, he just releases it anyways.
Who?
Avenatti. Whatever information he has.
Oh, the information, yeah.
I mean, at this point, obviously, Nike's who turned him in. I'd be like, I'm going to release it anyways.
Well, and here's the thing. In his
especially now with all the college corruption we got going on, like finding out that Nike, not that it's a big shocker, that they're trying to find ways, loopholes around the system to help pay athletes to go to certain colleges, and give money to their family.
Well, and here in his possible defense, this may be a defense that he offers, it's a fine line between extortion and hush money. Because if you look at what he's involved with Stormy Daniels, it's not illegal for, say, in the Stormy Daniels situation, she comes to Trump or her representative comes to Trump and says, hey, we're about to do an interview about, what you two had. And Trump goes, hey, I'm going to pay you some money to not do that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference is I can't ask for it, right? Right. Like if I knew something about you, and I'm like, hey, I'm about to go ahead and talk about your, your whatever on the air, you'd be like, hey, Frank, what if I give you $200 not to? Oh, okay.
Oh, hadn't thought of that.
Right. But if I sit there and go, hey, give me $200 or I'm going to tell everybody, then
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And then, okay. All right.
That's how the one guy that did the anonymous businessman here in town, that everybody knows but doesn't name, because he got extorted for the $200,000 for the give me $200,000 or I'm going to release this video. I'm like, buddy, you should have talked to me first. I'd have just told you, like, hey, I have this phone with somebody famous fucking on it. You do you want it for $200,000? Because if not, I'm going to sell it to the National Enquirer for the highest bidder. You know what I mean? Like first dibs. That's not extortion now, right? Would that wouldn't be right? That's hush money now.
Well, I think no. Here's the thing. I don't think you could talk about money. I think what you would do is this: you would go, "Yeah, we have this thing, and just letting you know we're going to do an interview."
Or I guess how I could put it would be like, "Hey, I got this phone. I'm getting ready to go ahead and sell it to."
You could, but I think what you would do is you would just avoid any talk of sales at all. I think you would just say, "Yeah, I'm just going to talk about it publicly." That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to talk about it publicly.
And so you can never bring up money. So if that person goes, okay, well, what can I do to get you to keep your mouth shut? Nothing.
I mean, I think it's a gray area. Like, I think obviously you could talk about money, but I think the more you talk about money, the more you're setting yourself up.
Folks at home, if you know how to extort people, let us know.
Yeah.
Our internet's slow today. I've been trying to pull up articles. This is just
extortion. Extortion versus hush money.
Yeah. Did you?
The Motley Crue trailer?
Yeah. Did you see the movie yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I'm home for like 10 minutes before I go to bed.
All right. We got to get Frank to see the Motley Crue. We'll just play the trailer. Just play the trailer here. Pause it for a second while I set this up. So The Dirt, which is the name of the Motley Crue biopic that was produced by Netflix, was released over the weekend. I have been looking forward to this for a long time because I lived a portion of this in that day and time. And it is very true to, it's based on their autobiography, which is one of the craziest rock and roll debauchery stories you'd ever read. And it's based directly off of that book. And this movie was super well done. If you got Netflix, you should check it out. I mean, it would seem too crazy to believe if you didn't know it were true. Did you see it yet, Mikey?
No, I have not.
Yeah, worth checking out. Just play the trailer here. Tell me if after we play this trailer, Frank, tell me if you were aware or not aware of any of this, because this was a little before your time.
It could have happened to anybody, but it didn't. It happened to us. The new band is gonna be something nobody's ever seen before.
Oh my God, those are my pants.
But they look so much better on me.
We got a runaway, a cute drummer, an old man. Let's just play it. A cover band singer.
They say you're gonna be a rock star.
What do you think?
Holy shit.
If we want to knock people on their asses, then we've got to give them a show. I'm talking like a stadium show in the clubs. The fans, they're dying for some anarchy. So let's give it to them.
I work for Elektra Records. You guys like a record deal?
I had managed the Scorpions, Bon Jovi, Skid Row, Kiss, but I had never been through what Motley Crue put me through.
I am sick and tired of not having any fun.
Everything's upside down and flip-flopping. Motley Crue, no strangers to controversy.
Vince Neil was charged with vehicular manslaughter.
Tommy Lee and Heather Locklear have separated.
It's a degenerative bone disease.
Nikki Sixx has overdosed.
I know it's not gonna be easy, but I believe in you guys.
Win it all or lose it all. We are Motley Crue.
Motley Crue, here all week. Okay, boys, let's rock the house.
So there's a couple of minutes of a trailer. So what makes this so interesting, and I didn't really think about it till this came out, Frank, but in this day and time, a lot of the modern take on this is going, what is with this behavior? What are we talking about? We can't be having this sort of behavior. We're not having it now, but to even take a snapshot out of it from as recently as the 80s, there's a lot of people, again, kind of in the Me Too, era, people going, what in the world is this debaucherous behavior? But the thing was, back then, not only was it on the part of the bands, but it was also on the part of the girls. Like, it was all consensual, but this was like, that was the day and age of, and it makes me realize, I guess there's really not like groupies like that anymore. you know. But this kind of wild behavior, I mean, no spoilers, but I'll tell you, there's one scene in the movie at the Rainbow, which is the Rainbow Bar and Grill that's on the Sunset Strip. That was a big rock and roll gathering, where they're all sitting around a table, and the Saturday Night Live dude that's in it, that plays their manager, help me out, just broke up with Ariana Grande. What's the guy's name?
Pete Davidson?
Pete Davidson. He plays their manager. He sits down at a booth in the Rainbow, like it's the scene where he's meeting the band, and he sits down and says, hey, I want to talk to you guys about representing you. And all of a sudden he's like, whoa, and looks under the table, and there's a girl under the table who was trying to blow him. Like, just when he sat down, she like starts trying to blow him. And he's like, what is under there? And they're all laughing. That's a true story.
No shit.
Not made up in the movie. When they would sit down at the Rainbow, there would be a girl under the table just going around blowing everybody. If you happen to sit down at the table, she'll get around to you. I mean, you know, if you're aware of how gonorrhea can be transmitted through the throat, I wouldn't recommend it.
Can you get gonorrhea from a blowjob?
Yeah. Yeah. The next time we're
my
in
childhood, I've dodged some bullets.
Yeah. The next time.
Holy shit! Really? I only thought you had to use a condom if you penetrated them vaginally.
Yeah, it can happen.
Wow, man, I missed out on sex ed, dude.
Rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of dirty whore is that?
It's harder to get. But the next time, I tell you what, the next time that we are in LA, which we're overdue for a trip to LA, we got to get back to LA.
Yeah.
We will go watch this movie because I want to talk about it on the show. Watch this movie. Mrs. Mir will like this too because she kind of likes a lot of the '80s music too.
Yeah.
She liked the Queen biopic.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man! We watch. She is such on the Queen kick that I'm Disney or for Halloween. I might be fucking growing a mustache, dude.
Oh, Jumbo Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do like
this is gonna be awesome
because of her hair. You know, is long and black. I think she was talking about being Freddie Mercury like 1975, and I'm gonna be the Freddie Mercury 1985.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna wear like the white. You know, when he did like the Wembley
with the skin tight white pants.
Yeah, like what was it, the Live Aid or something? Yeah. I'm already trying to learn the go-go gaga.
Oh, this would be great. Carrying around the half microphone stand. Oh, I love this. I love this idea. Well, watch the movie. You guys will like it, and then we can talk about it on the show. But it's just, I think it's a very interesting thing to talk about, especially juxtaposed to like today's mentality. But what I was going to say is next time.
My list is getting built. Oh, the good thing I'm actually traveling next week to go to New York.
Oh, yeah.
So I got some long flights because I got to catch up on the Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And then now I'd catch this one.
Next time we're in LA, we'll go to the Rainbow Bar and Grill because that place has not changed. It is exactly as it was then. And you see where all this kind of stuff
I love
happens.
his history brain. Did you hear about the story the one time it kind of it was just funny? We were in LA and I was like, because I had been up and just tired, and so you know, I'm like, hey man, I just need to take a nap for a minute. And he's like, oh, that's no problem. You know, Richard being Richard, I got to go do this, run over here. So we park alongside of a street. Yeah. So I take a nap. He walks out and you can see Richard, like, you know, he walks out and I come to, and so he's at the front of the car and he's looking at me. He looks back at the window, and then he gets like kind of like a pep in his step. He walks. He goes, hey, funny thing, you know where we're at right now? Like, this is where.
I parked the car in the exact same spot that in front of Vitello's Italian restaurant where Robert Blake parked his car and left his wife Bonnie Lee Bakley in the passenger seat where Frank was sitting, and then when he came back she'd been shot to death.
Yeah. We were like looking around. I'm all, you trying to tell me something there, buddy?
Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't even realize it until I was walking back to the car, but he's laying there and I thought, man, this is as close to being Robert Blake as hopefully I ever get. All right, yeah, we'll check out the movie and then we'll discuss. You'll be entertained. Okay, anything else? We're gonna wrap it. I guess we should wrap it, right?
That's it, yeah.
All right, Frank. Let's see here. We will be back next week. Now, Frank is this is your pro wrestling debut next week, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to take place in New York.
It is
on Josh Barnett's promotion, right?
Bloodsport.
Okay. Now, is that the one? Did I see they're pairing you up with Dan Severn?
Yeah.
Okay, it's that one, right? All right. That's good because Dan has pro wrestling experience. You know, he, after retiring from MMA, he was actually like a pro wrestling champion, I think, in NWA for a while.
Okay.
So, do you know him at all?
I've met him and I've talked to him. But from that speech with him, I'm pretty sure he doesn't remember ever fucking talking to me.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you guys are doing that where?
I actually went to talk to him about Wes Sims. That was before I fought Wes Sims. I was like, hey, we have a common future opponent, somebody you fought. And like, hey, how did he feel? Anything you notice? Some tendencies I should train for, not train for? And he sat there. Now you got to realize Wes Sims is like 6'10".
Yeah.
He doesn't really fit in the bunch. So I'm asking, and Dan's like, and he had only fought him within the last 3 months or something. When I was talking to him, he's all, yeah, tall guy, huh? I don't quite remember. Probably just took him down and grinded him out. I'm like, yeah. He was okay. I'm like, you fought a lot, but I mean, Jesus Christ, the guy's 6'10". How many 6'10" motherfuckers have you fought that you can't remember in the last 3 months fighting somebody?
Yeah. Now you asked Frank about his fight 3 months ago, and he's like, yeah, it's kind of. Yeah.
No, I do it. I've like landed in airports with Mrs. Mir. I'm like, hey, this is a nice airport. Like this, and she goes, you fucking with me, right? I'm all, what? She goes, we were here, like, you've been here, done this. I'm all, oh, that's why this shit like looks familiar, huh? Like, no clue. Like, I go to cities all the time now. I'm like, I should start marking shit in my fucking phone. Because there's been times, like, I've gone places and I'm like, wow, this place just feels so eerily familiar. And it's not till I'm flying back that I realize I've actually been there before.
We had it happen, Mikey, the other week when we went to see Kiss. We all went out to eat beforehand. We're all sitting at the table, and I'm talking about how I think Frank asked me if there was an opening act, and Kiss has had this opening act that's like a performance artist. And I was going into detail about, yeah, the guy does this, and he paints, and he does this, and he does that. And Frank's like, oh, really? Oh, that sounds pretty cool. And Jennifer looks at Frank. She goes, we went to dinner with him. And Frank's like, oh, yeah, that guy.
And I still didn't remember. I do this to people all the time. Here, trade secret, guys. When people come up to me and they say, hey, do you remember me or remember my friend or you remember this situation? For a second, if I really don't, I'll be honest. I'll be like, I don't know. Like, give me a little bit more because I really want to see if I can remember. And then if you give me a little bit more and I'm still drawing a fucking blank, I don't want to sit there for the next 10 minutes you trying to fucking get me to remember because obviously the shit ain't going to happen. Fucking that brain cell is dead. It's gone. It ain't coming back. So I just sit there and look at you and go, oh, yeah. And my wife knows the oh, yeah means I have no fucking clue what you're talking about right now.
Yeah. My move is this, to get you to, because I get Jennifer to do this. So, like, if I run into you and you're reacting to me in a way where it's obvious that I should know who you are, right? And I realize I don't, what she will do is she will introduce herself by name to you, right?
Yeah.
So if you come up and you're like, oh, man, it's so great to see you again, you know, and hey, good to see you too. And I realize I don't know who you are, and I'll say, this is my girlfriend, Jennifer. And then when she says, you know, hi, I'm Jennifer, and you go, yeah, I'm Frank, I will then a half a second later go, yeah, it's Frank. Like almost like, of course I was going to say it. I mean, you said it first, but I was just about to introduce you guys.
That's the only reason why I've almost signed up for Facebook. I think I have an account, so a portal, so I can deal with the fan page.
You have a Facebook.
I do have a fan page, right?
Oh, you mean like, personal, right?
And I have a personal Facebook page too, but I never use it. The only reason I even signed up for it was to fucking, you can't view or do anything on your fan page if you don't have a Facebook to sign into.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. But I still never fucking go on it. Like, I've been on it once every 6 months, every once in a while. Like, I'll sign in to look, you know, if I have to do anything, like, oh, well, I should take that down, you know? But the one thing that's almost convinced me, like, fuck, birthdays almost got me going. Like, nah, fuck that. Don't care that much. But people's names, because I am notoriously bad. And I think this is a common thing that we all do. Where, like, do you ever, like, go to the gym or you're, you know, at work and there's that one guy that always talks to you, and you probably talk to him several times a day, and it's gone on now for like a year, and you don't fucking know his name, and it's gone way past where you're just a complete fucking asshole now. If you go, hey, real quick, by the way, I know that, you know, you come and you were at my kid's baptism, and you named your kid's middle name after me, but what the fuck's your name?
No, that happens. Now, it can screw you up in reverse, though, because one thing that'll happen with me, and see, I used to be really good at remembering faces if I'd met you before, but even better than names. Like, even if your name had escaped me, even if we had just had the most casual of interfacings, I would commit your name to memory. But Facebook messed me up on that, because if you talk to somebody enough on Facebook, you're always seeing their picture. And so I've had situations where I will meet. It just happened to me on radio.
The picture's not been updated very well.
Right. Well, a listener would come up to me from my radio show, and I'd be like, "Oh, it's great to see you again." And they're like, "Actually, it's the first time we've met."
Oh, okay.
But what we had done is we had corresponded back and forth, and I saw their picture every time I wrote to them. So.
I've actually had to deal. I think there's going to be a new psychology field on dealing with social media and Facebook for the different problems it actually presents, because now our interaction with humans, each other, is different. And one of them being is that when I sometimes have a fan that walks up to me and they're just like, go hard, you know, like they fucking know me really well, right? For a while, I'd be like, you don't know me. But then actually I got used to it because I listened to like, you know, my wife and her sisters all talking. They'll talk about a celebrity and who's cheating on who or what happened with so-and-so. And I'm listening, you know, because, you know, obviously I'm in the car with her. I can't, you know. And the way they talk about that celebrity is like it's one of their friends that they know. And that's when I actually made the reference, like, oh, you guys like talk about this person like you've met them, even though that this person doesn't know you fucking exist. And if you met them, you would probably treat them like somebody you know, because you know who they're dating, who left them, the argument they just had with their mother, their business fallout. Like, you know them actually pretty fucking well, but they don't know you. And so, like, that's why I'm much more understanding when a fan comes up and goes fucking nuts with me, like, and I'm like, okay, hold on. I just met you. You know what I mean? Like, let's meet in the middle here. You know what I mean? Like, you tone it down a step and I'll bring it up a step, and we'll figure each other out. But that's another part of social media that's affected me, where I'm like, oh, okay. At first I was like, oh, you're fucking crazy. And then after, like I said, being on the other side of it, I go, oh, you're not crazy. You're just that because of social media, you have familiarized yourself with me. You know my children, you know my wife, you know my day-to-day routine. So you feel like you know me, because you really do know me. You fucking know me.
Yeah.
You know me probably better than some of my friends know me. But I just fucking met you. So it's not that I'm standoffish. It's just that the familiarity or the recognition's not being a two-way street.
No, that's true. I mean, like, we were just looking at that Motley Crue trailer. Back then, these people were like aliens. Like, there was the only time you see them on a stage, when you go see them live, you see them on MTV in a music video, or you would read an interview in a magazine. That's it. There was, there's no somebody Instagramming the picture of them and their family at the taco place that I also go to. There's none of that familiarity. So those people were like aliens. I remember I met Metallica when I was 15 at a record signing, and they were behind a table. Of course, they're probably 23 at the time, but to me, they were just like even just the fact they're behind this table, it was almost like looking at zoo animals behind glass or something. You're like, well, these aren't humans. They've been transported from my record collection in MTV, and now it would be different, because even if you meet somebody for the first time, you're like, oh yeah, I saw where you and your wife and your kids were at Disneyland the other day, and I like that ride, and you like that, it's like, and that's fine, and in a way, but you're right, it is totally different. All right, a little bonus content for you there. We almost fake wrapped this show up once before we start talking again. All right, Frank, tell everybody how to follow us on social media.
You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Phone Booth Fighting, Snapchat and Twitter at Phone Booth Fight. All right,
and just a point of clarification, I said, where's that pro wrestling? It's in New York, right? Somewhere in New York?
Flying into JFK. Beyond that, I don't know. It's on my website.
Maybe it's at the airport. Yeah, he's going to wrestle in Terminal
I think it's on the thing, because one of my friends is actually, Ruben is actually going to be in town, because I think the Geico National High School Basketball Championship. So he's one of the trainers for Gorman, so he'll be there. And I was like, oh, I'll be in the area, but I think he looked at it from where he's at. I'm still hours away.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're interested in it, if you're in the area, probably just check out Josh Burnett on social media. I know he's going to have it. It'll be on Frank's social media as well. If you want to check out the card, you got it?
It's in New Jersey.
Okay.
Newark.
All right. What's it called? What's
Jersey
the event
City,
called?
New Jersey. What's it called?
Yeah.
White Eagle Hall.
At White Eagle Hall in New Jersey. Okay. Is there a website or something if people want to get tickets?
Yeah, tickets available at Bloodsport19eventbrite.com.
Okay.
Streaming live on Fight TV.
Oh, we can watch it. We can watch it on Fight TV. Well, now maybe we'll be doing that. All right, and just so you know, I'm gonna put this idea in your back of your head, Frank. If you do like the pro wrestling and you continue on with it, I would like to audition at some point as the manager.
Yeah.
You know, the guy.
You know, I've worked out the last 2 mornings is Austin Aries.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, he's back in town and stuff.
Oh, I
so
didn't
we've
even
been
know he was
lifting.
here. Oh,
Yeah,
that's great. Okay, cool.
So we've been lifting in the mornings together, and
good.
we talked about actually the next week or two, like jumping into a boxing or a wrestling ring, and me actually getting some instruction on the finite details.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Yeah. Did I tell you Josh Barnett's advice?
No.
Just go. just start moving. Just roll.
Yeah.
Just do what you do. I'm all, okay.
Well, I want you to take great care. I've seen you have to get out of bed sometimes before. I don't want it to be the kind of pro wrestling match where the first back bump you take, you're like, I can't get up. That's it. We're done. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, everybody can watch it on Fight TV then. All right. So for Frank, Mir, and for Mikey doing an awesome job producing, we appreciate you being with us as always, and we'll see you right back here next week for another episode of Phone Booth Fighting.